What if the one message you never expected shattered 10 years of silence in a single line? What if the person you thought abandoned you never really left at all? And what if the truth was waiting quietly for the exact moment you were finally ready to hear it? This isn't just a love story. It's about timing, secrets, and the one unfinished moment that refused to stay buried. The email arrived at 7:42 a.m. Just one line. I saw your painting in the gallery. I knew it was you. I froze. My coffee halfway to my lips. The name at the bottom was one I hadn't read in 10 years. My hands trembled slightly as I reread it. Once, twice, 3 times. I hadn't thought about her in years, or at least that's what I told myself. Outside, the city hummed like nothing had changed. Inside, everything did. I met Emily in a small art cafe when life felt like a quiet room with no doors. She'd been the spark that reminded me to dream, to feel, to create. Then she disappeared. No reason, no goodbye dot. And now, 10 years later, she was suddenly here again. Staring at the screen, I leaned back in my chair. I saw your painting in the gallery. I knew it was you. The gallery. The one where I'd submitted that forgotten piece. The one I almost didn't send. My phone buzzed. Another email. I'll be there this evening. 6 p.m. if you want to talk. No explanation, no emotion, just that dot by noon. I couldn't focus on anything. My coworkers talked, laughed, moved around me, but I wasn't there. My mind was already at that gallery, replaying every word we'd once said. Dot, it wasn't just a love story. It had been something quieter, something more human. She believed I could be more. I believed her until she vanished. Dot, at 5:30, I stood in front of the mirror, adjusting my collar like a nervous teenager. The years had added lines to my face, but my eyes still carried the same question. What happened to us? The gallery smelled of paint, glass, and memories. The lights were soft, the music faint. My painting, the one called Unfinished Horizon, hung in the corner. I stared at it, my pulse quickening. Then I saw her reflection in the glass dot my dot. She looked almost the same, maybe calmer, maybe quieter, but still the same Emily who once told me the art was. What happens when you stop pretending? Hi, I said, turning slowly. Hi, she replied, her voice softer than I remembered. For a few seconds we just stood there, strangers wearing old memories. I wasn't sure you'd come, she said. Finally, I almost didn't, I admitted. Then I thought, maybe it's time. She smiled faintly. Time is tricky, isn't it? It keeps moving even when we don't. There was silence between us, heavy but not uncomfortable. I saw your painting, she said. It felt familiar because it's about you, I said before I could stop myself. Her eyes lifted to mine, surprised, maybe even moved. You still remember. Some things don't fade, I said. She looked away, tracing the edge of the frame with her finger. I didn't leave because I wanted to, she whispered. I frowned. Then why? She hesitated. Because I had to. There was something you didn't know. The air shifted. The room felt smaller. What do you mean? I asked quietly. She looked up, eyes shining with a mix of regret and something deeper. I got a call that week, the day before I disappeared. From your brother, I blinked. My brother? Daniel? She nodded. He told me to walk away. That if I cared about you, I'd stay silent. My heartbeat quickened. That doesn't make sense. Why would he? He said you needed to focus. That your career, your future, everything you'd worked for would fall apart if you stayed with me. I laughed softly, disbelief cutting through my chest. And you believed him? I didn't want to, she said, voice trembling slightly. But he sounded so sure, and you were just getting your big break. I thought walking away was helping you. 10 years of confusion suddenly made a kind of cruel sense. The silence, the sudden goodbye, the unanswered letters. My brother. The one who'd always pushed me to stay on track. The one who said love was a distraction. Lily stepped closer, her eyes searching mine. I thought it was for the best, but when I saw your painting, I realized maybe it wasn't. I stared at her. Words caught in my throat. Emily, I whispered, he's gone. Her eyes widened. What do you mean, Daniel? He passed away last winter. Her lips parted, chalk flickering across her face. I didn't know. I nodded slowly. And now I think it's time I finally learned the truth. All of it. She hesitated, then reached into her bag. Her hand trembled slightly as she pulled out a folded letter. Edges worn with time. He left this, she said softly, for you. I stared at the letter in her hand, the past returning in paper form. The music in the gallery faded to silence. The air felt charged like something was about to break open. I reached out slowly, fingers brushing the edge of the letter, and then before I could unfold it, Emily whispered, There's something you should know before you read it. The gallery felt quieter now, almost empty. I unfolded the letter slowly, the paper soft between my fingers. Her eyes stayed on me, steady, patient Dot, as I read. Memories came back in fragments, like pieces of an old photograph. I first saw Emily in a tiny cafe tucked between two bookstores. I had been nursing a latte, trying to sketch something, anything, for a project I barely cared about. She was at the counter humming a song I didn't know, tying her hair back with a ribbon that kept slipping. I remember the way she laughed when she spilled a little sugar on the floor, crouching to wipe it up like it was the funniest thing in the world. Something about that moment made me stop worrying about deadlines or schedules. I walked over awkwardly and said, "Need help?" She looked up, surprised. "I've got it, thanks." But she smiled at me anyway. That smile, quiet, real, like sunlight breaking through clouds. It stayed with me for weeks. Over the next few months, we met almost by chance. Coffee became breakfast. Breakfast became walks through the city park. And slowly, our conversations turned into a language only we understood. We shared everything in fragments. I told her about my love for painting, how it made me feel alive. She told me about her dreams of traveling, of seeing colors that didn't exist on maps. "You paint what you feel," she said one day, tracing my hand on the sketchbook, "not what you see. That's rare." I laughed, thinking she was exaggerating, but I realized later she wasn't. She saw the part of me that no one else could. The day she left was not dramatic. No shouting, no letters, no anger, just silence. Dot. We had argued once months before. Small things. I wanted to take a solo trip for work. She wanted to visit her sister abroad. The words weren't even harsh. Just final. "Maybe we're holding each other back," she had whispered, eyes avoiding mine. "I don't think so," I said. But even I wasn't sure. Then she was gone. I remember coming home to an empty apartment. A single cup on the counter and a note I had ignored for weeks stopped. It wasn't about leaving me, and at the time I didn't understand. Reading the letter now, I felt pieces fall into place. She had carried a secret. We had walked along the river talking about the stars. "You ever think some people come into your life to teach you how to dream?" she had asked. I smiled. "I think some people come to remind you who you are." And she had smiled back the way she always did. But then she looked away, and something shifted. That was the moment I realized our timing was off. The letter shook slightly in my hands. She had written about Daniel, yes, but also about the one truth I had never known. She had waited. Every day she had hoped I would understand why she left. She had written that she never stopped thinking about me, never stopped seeing the world in fragments that reminded her of us. A photo slipped from the envelope. I picked it up, and my breath caught Dot. It was a picture of us taken the day we first met outside the cafe. Both of us laughing, hair messy, sunlight behind us. But in the corner, almost hidden, was my sketchbook, the one I had abandoned that day. I traced the lines she had drawn in it, little sketches of a bird, a tree, a street lamp. I hadn't noticed at the time, but she had captured that day as I had felt it, not as it appeared. "Dot?" My mind flashed back to the riverbank, the same river where we had thrown stones and made promises we couldn't keep. I remembered how she had taken my hand without asking, how I had squeezed it back, and how for one fleeting moment everything felt right. Dot. And yet I remembered the silence afterward, the unspoken choice, the weight of Daniel's words hanging between us. I had thought she left me because she didn't care. But now reading her words, I understood. She had stayed because she did. Emily shifted beside me. "I wanted you to see this before you read the next part," she said softly. "What next part?" I asked, confused. She handed me another folded piece of paper, smaller, with a single line written in her careful script. "There's something you created that saved me before I left. I never told you." I stared at it, heart pounding. My fingers tingled. "Saved you?" I echoed. She nodded, her gaze steady, almost challenging me. "You'll see when you finish reading this, you'll know everything." And just like that, the past wasn't just memories anymore. It was a story waiting to be completed. The gallery door chimed as someone entered. I didn't look up at first, absorbed in the letter and photo in my hands, still staring at old papers. Emily's voice cut through the quiet. I looked up, startled. She stood there wearing a soft green coat. her hair catching the light like it always did. She looked 10 years older, yet the same. Somehow both familiar and impossible to forget. You startled me, I said, standing. I could say the same, she replied, stepping closer. Her eyes scanned the letter I still held. Are you finally reading it? I started. I admitted that I need to understand everything. Her gaze softened. I think it's time you do. We walked to a small bench by the window, the city bustling below. She leaned slightly, her hand brushing mine, casual but intentional. My heart skipped just like it used to. You kept painting, she said suddenly. All those years you didn't stop. I didn't think about stopping, I said. Even when life felt heavy, I kept going. She smiled faintly. I watched from afar. Some of the pieces, they saved me. I'll admit it. Saved you? I echoed. Her eyes met mine, steady and unwavering. When I left, I thought I had to disappear to protect you. But seeing your paintings reminded me of the world I didn't want to lose. It reminded me of us. I swallowed hard. Words failed me. The gallery, the people, the city. It all seemed to fade. For a moment it was just her, just us standing in the space where years of silence had lived. I kept wondering, I said after a pause, if you thought I didn't care. I thought you might hate me, she admitted. Or forget me. I never did, I said quietly. I wondered why you left. Yes, I was angry. Yes, but I never stopped thinking about you. She looked away, blinking rapidly, a hint of tears gathering. I wanted to tell you so many times, but Daniel's words kept echoing in my head. I didn't know if you'd listen to me or the message he sent. I reached out, touching her hand lightly. You're here now. Her lips parted as if to respond, but no words came. Instead, she rested her head against my shoulder for a fleeting moment, as if testing reality, testing if this was really happening. The gallery lights dimmed slightly, signaling the evening's closing. We stood reluctant to leave. Outside, the city glowed with traffic and neon reflections, the world moving faster than we could catch. So, what now? I asked, unsure whether I wanted an answer or simply to hear her voice. She shrugged. I don't know, but I do know I'm tired of pretending nothing ever happened. I'm tired of walking around the edges of our past. I nodded my chest tight. I'm tired of that, too. Then she hesitated, her fingers brushing mine again. There's something I never told you. Something important about the day I left. I held my breath. What is it? She looked down, taking a shaky breath. It wasn't just Daniel's words. I found out something about you. Something that changed everything for me. I leaned closer, my pulse quickening. What? She looked up, eyes searching mine, filled with a mixture of hope and fear. I realized I never stopped loving you. Even when I tried, even when I thought leaving was the right thing, I felt a warmth spread through me, a sensation I thought had vanished long ago. I never stopped either, I admitted, voice barely above a whisper. Her gaze held mine for a long beat. The silence between us, heavy with unspoken words, lost years and lingering emotion. I should have told you, she said finally. I should have fought for us. I shook my head gently. Maybe we both were scared. Maybe timing just wasn't ready. She smiled faintly, almost sadly. Maybe. Then, from her coat pocket, she pulled out a folded envelope, different from the first. There's one more thing, she said, her hand trembling. I only found it yesterday. It's from the day before I left. Something Daniel didn't know about. I took the envelope cautiously, my fingers brushing hers. The touch lingered. Electric, familiar. Open it, she whispered. I did. And inside was a small note written in my own handwriting, a draft I had never sent. It spoke of hope, of longing, of dreams I had painted but never shared with her. Her eyes widened. You wrote this for me? I nodded, my throat tight. I guess. I always hoped you'd see it. Her lips quivered and she laughed softly, a mixture of relief and disbelief. I can't believe this. You were trying to reach me even when I thought you weren't looking. The wind from the open gallery door caught her hair, and she looked at me like she was seeing me for the first time in years. I realized then that everything, the paintings, the letters, the silence had led us here, back together at the edge of something new. And yet, even as our hands met again, her words hung in the air, heavy with promise and uncertainty. There's still one thing I need to tell you, but I'm not sure I'm ready. We stood in the quiet corner of the gallery, the city lights spilling across the floor. The envelope still rested between us like a bridge we weren't sure we could cross. I need to tell you everything. Eee, said softly, her voice barely above the hum of the street below. I'm listening, I said, stepping closer. She took a shaky breath. The day I left, it wasn't just because of Daniel. It was because I found out you were moving away. Not just for work, for good. I blinked. Moving? Yes. That spring your parents told me you had accepted a project overseas. They didn't mention it to you directly, but I overheard them. The air tightened. My memories flickered. The excitement of opportunity, the late nights of planning, the fear of leaving everything behind. I thought if I stayed, I'd hold you back. You had everything in front of you. I wanted to let you go without making you choose. I swallowed hard. You left because you thought you were protecting me again. Her eyes glistened. I didn't want you to resent me. I thought distance would make it easier for both of us. I didn't know you'd keep painting, keep hoping. I shook my head slowly. All those years I kept trying to make sense of your silence. I blamed you. I blamed myself. I never realized. It was just fear. The fear of losing what we had. Her hand brushed mine light, tentative. I was scared too, but I never stopped thinking about you. I could see it in her eyes. The raw honesty, the vulnerability I had missed for a decade. I unfolded the last piece of the letter she had given me. Inside she had written, I never left because I stopped caring. I left because I thought you needed to grow, to live fully. And I waited. I waited for you to understand me again. My throat tightened. All this time you carried that weight alone. She nodded. Yes, and you carried yours. That's why I had to see if we still fit together. If we could even talk without breaking apart. We sat side by side, silence stretching over us, heavy but not painful. The past felt alive around us, but it didn't suffocate. I never stopped painting for you, I said finally. Every brush stroke, every color. I hoped you'd see a part of me you could come back to. Her lips curved into a small, tearful smile. And I did. That's why I came tonight, to tell you the truth, to see if we still could. I took a deep breath, my fingers tracing the outline of her hand. Maybe we can, but I need to know. Are we choosing each other now, or are we just clinging to memory? Emily looked down, fidgeting with the letter. I don't know. That's why I was hesitant to tell you. Part of me thought maybe you'd moved on completely. I didn't, I whispered. I just waited for the truth. Her eyes met mine, steady and fragile at once. Then here it is. I stayed away out of fear, out of love, and out of respect for what you might need. But I never stopped hoping you'd want me back. A tear slipped down her cheek. I reached up, brushing it away gently. The moment stretched, fragile, electric, unspoken. I want you back, I said finally, my voice raw and honest. But we can't erase the past. We have to rebuild together. She nodded slowly, trembling. I'm willing if you are. We leaned closer, hands entwined, hearts quietly colliding after 10 years. Then she pulled slightly away, biting her lip. There's one more thing I didn't tell anyone. Not Daniel, not my friends. Something I did that could change everything. I froze. Change everything. Her gaze dropped to the envelope in my hands. Before I left, I made a decision. One that affected your work, your life. I never told you because I didn't know how. And now I think you need to know before we move forward. The gallery lights flickered, soft shadows stretching across her face. She looked vulnerable, honest, and impossibly human. I held her hands tighter. Tell me whatever it is, we'll face it together. Her lips parted, but she didn't speak. She looked at me, searching for courage in my eyes. The city outside kept moving, oblivious to the collision of years, the revelation waiting in her chest. Dot. Finally, she whispered almost too quietly to hear. I changed something in your past, something you'll see tonight. And I don't know if you'll forgive me. Emily's words lingered in the air, soft and fragile. I changed something in your past, something you'll see tonight. I didn't know how to tell you. I took a steadying breath. Show me. Whatever it is, we'll face it. She nodded, and together we left the gallery, stepping into the quiet night. The streets were nearly empty, lights reflecting in puddles from a brief afternoon rain. She led me to a small apartment I hadn't seen before. Inside, she pulled out a folder, thick, worn at the edges. Everything's here, she said. Your past projects, emails you never sent, opportunities you almost missed. I arranged it so you'd see what you could have done, all the things you were afraid to try. I blinked. You helped me. She nodded. I couldn't bear to see you hold back, even if I had to disappear to make sure you had the chance. I opened the folder. The pages were filled with sketches, drafts, and notes I had forgotten, plans I had abandoned, letters I never mailed. But they were complete now, organized, ready to become the life I had always imagined but never pursued. "I thought I lost you," she whispered, "and I realized I couldn't let you lose yourself, too." I looked at her, my chest tightening. "Emily, you saved me in ways I didn't even know I needed." She smiled softly. "And you saved me, too. You gave me the courage to come back, to tell the truth, to stop hiding in the shadows of fear." For a moment, we didn't speak. The room was quiet except for our breathing. Then slowly, I reached out and took her hands. The warmth was familiar, grounding. "I want to build something new," I said. "Together, no secrets, no silence." Her eyes glistened. "I want that, too." The next days passed in a blur of shared stories and quiet laughter. We revisited the old car where we first met, walked along the riverbank where our promises had once lingered, and looked at the paintings that had carried us through years of distance. One evening, handed me a small envelope. "I found this in the back of the gallery," she said. Dot inside was a note written in my own hand years ago, but never sent. "If you ever come back, I'll be waiting. The world is too big to face alone, but not if we face it together." I looked at her smiling, and she smiled back. "I think we were both waiting," she said. "Yes, I agreed." And now we don't have to wait anymore. Weeks later, we held a small exhibition together. Our words, our lives intertwined on canvas and paper. People admired the pieces, unaware of the story behind them, but we didn't need anyone else to understand. During the final hour, Emily and I stood together in the quiet corner of the gallery, hands brushing, hearts aligned. The evening light painted golden streaks across her face. "I never thought after all this time," she whispered. I shook my head. "Neither did I, but it feels right, doesn't it?" She nodded. "It does." Finally, we leaned close, foreheads touching, letting the years of silence, fear, and longing dissolve into a single moment of understanding. Dot. Later that night, after the gallery emptied, I found one last letter tucked into the frame of unfinished horizon. Dot, it was from Emily, written years ago, but only meant to be seen now. "No matter the distance, no matter the silence, love never truly leaves. It waits quietly until hearts are ready to meet again." I held the note smiling through tears and placed it next to her hand. She looked at me, eyes shining. "Ready?" I asked. "Always," she said. We stepped outside into the city, lights shimmering, the air crisp and full of possibility. Together we began again, not as shadows of our past, but as the people we were always meant to become. Dot. And in that moment, I realized something simple and true. Some desires are never forgotten. They just wait for the courage to live them.